Hey everybody, with the year coming to an end, I wanted to do a quick look back on the last 12 months and talk about what we have in store for 2024. This is mainly to make sure you didn't miss anything from 2023 as we ring in the new year. And right now, I'm actually standing in front of the Warren Glen Paper Mill in New Jersey. It doesn't look that old, but parts of it date all the way back to the 1700s, and they're tearing it down, unfortunately, but this is an upcoming video. I actually was invited to tour the inside with a police escort and document what we found and sort of preserve the history and some of the stories, but that's a video that's coming up for next year. In 2023, we put out 17 new videos, many of them full-length documentaries. Some of them were exploring remote ghost towns and even making fresh discoveries on those sites, while other videos were exploring maritime history. We visited wrecks, looked at artifacts, and met with several experts along the way.
It was the first Art Deco passenger ship on the Great Lakes, and it was also the first all-steel passenger ship on the Great Lakes.
Many of the maritime documentaries were greatly enhanced with animations made by my friend Alex Muller. Now let's take a look back on 2023. We opened the year by going deep below the decks of the SS United States docked in Philadelphia. This was on my bucket list for years. I'd been on board before, but this was the first time I actually got permission to film. As we walked the decks of the ship, we looked back on the ship's magnificent history with the help of the SS United States Conservancy. We explored the ship with my friends Eric and Amos, and I even got my wife aboard the ship, which was pretty special to me. I visited Nova Scotia over the holidays in 2022, filming a few projects along the way. The first one that was published was an exploration of a small shipwreck in the Halifax harbor using my 5-fish V6 by QYC. This came out in February of this year. Under the guidance of my friend Bob Chalk, a Nova Scotia author and historian, we took the ROV through the wreck of the sailing ship Borghild and even checked out the remains of a sunken railroad bridge. There we go. This is the first wreck I've ever seen with this camera.
There you go. Big day.
It is a big day. Then we jumped to the American West Coast for the next video, exploring the wreck of the famous sailing ship Peter Iredale, which ran aground on Clatsop Beach in Oregon in 1906. While this wreck has been so well photographed and explored by others, this was the first real dive into the ship's full history in video form that I'm aware of. Next, my friend Amos and I were out in the deserts of Nevada at one of my favorite ghost towns, the railroad junction town of Bonnie Clare. We traced the railroad tracks and recounted the story of a train crash near the site, a gunfight, and even found the uncharted remains of the town's original mill site, a place called Thorpe's Well. This was a site that wasn't previously identified, and funny enough, in the time since the video was uploaded, someone submitted it to Google Maps, and now it's pinpointed and well documented for anyone searching.
This is crazy. We found the mill, we found the springs, we found where some of the houses would have been.
Sticking with ghost towns, we moved north into Montana, where we explored the town of Comet, the third of my 4 videos filmed in Montana. Actually, there's a 5th short one about the town of Pardee, which is exclusive to Patreon. But the beautiful town of Comet was nestled in a wooded valley along a dirt road with excellent remains of a flotation mill and one of the coolest ruined hotels I've ever explored, the Daly Hotel, which kind of felt like it might come down on top of my head at any moment, so we didn't go too far in. The mystery still remains, however, of a boulder that seems to have appeared inside of one of the dormitory buildings without enough damage to have smashed its way in. Back on the high seas, at the end of March, we commemorated the 150th anniversary of the wreck of the SS Atlantic with an all-new, up-to-date documentary and a detailed new animation by my friend Alex. We once again teamed up with Bob Chalk to tell the tragic story of the first steamship disaster for the White Star Line. It's always special doing animations with historians because we really value their expertise and work with them to directly refine our work. This enables us to improve our animations while allowing the historian to see the event unfold in 3D space as they had never before. Needless to say, when doing this project with Bob, we made a lot of discoveries just in reviewing the survivor testimony against the 3D environment. The animation itself was released as a standalone video as a real-time syncing later in the year. Next, we explored something of a hybrid between a ghost town and Shipwreck, a derelict ship sitting on the Ohio River in Kentucky, locally referred to as a ghost ship. This was the old steam yacht SS Sachem, also known as the Panache. It was a beautiful old vessel with a colorful history, serving in both world wars, acting as Thomas Edison's floating laboratory, and then later as a tour boat around New York City, and even being featured for literally one single frame of a Madonna music video. We walked the decks and peeked down into the engine room, sharing the ship's full history with the public, with the help of a preservation group dedicated to saving the memory of the ship. In May, for the anniversary of the sinking of the Lusitania, we gave an update on the progress of our virtual museum experience that we're developing on the ship, titled Lusitania: The Greyhound's Wake. While I recommend you check that video out, here's a great opportunity to tell you a little bit more about how that's coming as of today. Our efforts have been divided between developing this as well as 2 other projects of nearly the same scale, but for private clients. However, Lusitania is coming along nicely as always. The exterior of the ship is just about finished as of October, just in time for the due date for a 2-volume book on the Lusitania that we're putting together for the History Press. The biggest tasks of the past half a year for Levi and Alex have been redoing the ship's hull plating texture from scratch and completing the interiors. Aside from a few bits of modeling here and there, it's mostly just programming from here on out. That 2-volume book that I mentioned is being produced in conjunction with this museum experience and will be featuring several beautiful images from the project. Volume 1 of Lusitania, an illustrated biography, will be available in June 2024. In June of 2023, however, 6 months ago, we explored the rocky coast near Manzanita, Oregon, and found the rusted fragments of the old sailing ship Glenesslin, a contemporary to the Peter Iredale and quite a similar sailing vessel, although significantly smaller. Under odd circumstances, and most likely intentionally, the antiquated vessel seems to have been run up onto the shore. Fortunately, nobody was injured, and the wreck resulted in some of the coolest photographs of a stranded vessel that I have seen in that area. This video, along with the SS Atlantic, I feel were Alex's best animations of the year, especially with the old sailing ship drifting up to the shore. I was back in Canada in the summer and filmed a few more exploration videos, including one on an unassuming piece of wreckage in a rural cove of Nova Scotia. Historians have looked at this wreck and believe it's the remains of the Dartmouth, one of the old paddle steamer ferries in Halifax Harbor. We take a look at the history of the ship and see what we can surmise simply by looking at this wooden hull. We stayed in Nova Scotia for the next video, tracing my wife's family history in an old logging town known as Shulie, now completely gone. It was a fantastic time visiting Shulie with my grandfather-in-law and hearing personal stories from this place, adding a personal touch that's so rare when exploring a lost town.
My grandfather's childhood sweetheart, see, I think she died at childbirth.
And even more personal stories were shared by people in the comments on YouTube, which was fantastic. I was trying to challenge myself to see how much of a story could be told from such limited remains, and I'm happy with the results. These 2 videos even led to some exciting press coverage in Nova Scotia and with the CBC. On the drive home from Nova Scotia, I passed through Maine. In Wiscasset, there once were 2 wooden schooners rotting away on the shore for decades. These schooners became so iconic that the town actually put them into their seal. They were called the Hesper and the Luther Little, but sadly they were eventually demolished. We got to do a deep dive into their story and preserve their legacy despite their absence, speaking with some of the folks who were there and, well, burned them. We did one more Canadian story in 2023, this one on a town buried in a rock slide in 1903. It was the town of Frank in Alberta, and the footage simply doesn't do justice to how massive the boulders are that still sit on top of a part of the old town and its inhabitants. Turtle Mountain was already unstable and extensive coal mining underneath it didn't help, eventually leading to a large chunk of the mountain collapsing and killing anywhere from 50 to 150 people. We explored the site and visited the interpretive center on the slope, and then actually managed to find the escape route that the trapped miners took. In 2022, we were on the Great Lakes telling the tragic story of the wreck of the SS Eastland, and in 2023, we revisited Lake Michigan for a happier tale. The story of the steamer Milwaukee Clipper, originally built as Eastland's contemporary and first called the SS Juniata, but she was rebuilt in 1940 and renamed the Milwaukee Clipper. Traditionally, it's considered bad luck to rename a ship, but the Milwaukee Clipper has been well loved and well taken care of, so I think she was a little on the luckier side. We visit the nearly 120-year-old ship in Muskegon, Michigan, and really get our hands dirty exploring every nook and cranny of this vessel and tell the story like never before. We took an impromptu look at a wrecked sailboat that washed up on the shore of Cape May, New Jersey, because it literally washed up in my neighborhood while I was editing another video. We explore the boat as well as old mining railroad tracks buried in the sand just under the boat's keel. Shortly after we published that video, the boat was destroyed by vandals. Shout out to Chris, who was one of the first responders called to the scene and also watches this channel. We wrap up the year with one final ghost town video, the last of my Montana videos that I've filmed so far, exploring the mountaintop ghost town of Granite, Montana. With such photogenic ruins of both civilian and industrial buildings, Granite was an exciting site to explore and a video to produce. This video also rings in as my longest ghost town video project to date. In April, we did our 9th annual Titanic anniversary live stream. This year we were joined by J. Kent Layton, who is a regular to this channel, as well as Ken Marshall, George Behe, Tad Fitch, and Bill Wormstead. Another exciting project we published in April with J. Kent Layton was a musical album recreating classical ocean liner music. It includes piano pieces of the Empress of Ireland and 3 from the Lusitania, as well as several others, and it was the first time that many of these pieces had been recorded and shared with the public. This album is available for sale online, and you can find it at the links in the description below. Things have been a little quieter for the second half of the year. As I mentioned, we have 2 private projects we are contracted for, as well as focusing on the Lusitania book and experience. In June, our team traveled up to Quebec to visit the Empress of Ireland Museum in Rimouski, where we worked with historian David St. Pierre to gather material for one of our next big projects, a virtual museum experience on the Empress of Ireland. We were able to actually touch and pick up and photograph and measure as many artifacts as we could from the museum. It was such a special and sobering experience.
What you have in front of you right now is the exact same object that you can see here on the side of the wheelhouse of the Empress of Ireland.
One of the reasons I do these videos is because I truly love sharing these stories with the world, and my top tier supporters on Patreon also receive artifacts from some of these videos. In 2023, as perks for being on Patreon, they received pieces of timber from the Mary Celeste slipway, luggage tags from the SS United States, porcelain from the wreck of the SS Atlantic, sail canvas from the Glenesslin, rocks from the Frank Rock Slide, and in early 2024, they'll be receiving a pair of coasters and a napkin from the Milwaukee Clipper's service in the 1980s. We also did a soft launch of YouTube memberships if you prefer something other than Patreon. In 2024, we have some exciting new documentaries coming out, everything from obscure shipwrecks to iconic ones, more ghost towns, and even a major production on a terrifying train wreck. We'll be exploring farther than ever and teaming up with my colleagues in the Explorers Club to tell exciting stories and actually make new discoveries just for these videos. With each video, we always try to break some sort of new ground, and we'll be doing a lot of that in 2024. Stay tuned, and thank you to each and every one of you who have been tagging along for this journey. A huge thank you as well to the friends of mine who make up the team here. Levi, Alex, Amos, Kent, Scotty, Alan, Tad, Steven, and of course my wife Emma, and so many more. A special thank you to my supporters on Patreon, especially Marlo Perez, Kelly Black, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Kaiser Friedrich III, Zach Richards, Donald Anderson, Cody Henricks, Joan Haynes, Sean Kimball, Glenn Biddiscombe, Stephen Schwankert, Gabriel Colomb, RGB, Tara Mollikar, Keith Holland, Miles Garrett, Jennifer, Rob M., Amos Mayhew, Corey Andrews, Nicholas Masella, Cole Tanik, Sophie Baber, Rob, Oliver Chinchen, John Maluski, David Watipka, Tiffany Raridan, Mad Time Media, Nathan Gutierrez, Max Metcalf, David Littlejohn, Sean Sahi Fraser, Nikki Chan 92, Corbin McDonald, Matthew Burns, Goblin of the Salt Plains, Luke Stevens, Gordon Robbins, Aaron Stark, Troy Wentworth, Clarkey, Sam Forker, and Busy Bee.